I would like to share with you 3 experiences I've had related to the cult of Santa Muerte. My journey with her, or rather my first encounter, was when I was just 14 years old. At that time, my mother was asked to be the godmother for the quinceañera of her friend's daughter. She asked me to accompany her to the market in the capital with the intention of buying a floral arrangement at a good price. While walking through the market aisles, I came across a stall where they sold religious images and esoteric products. It was there that I saw an amber red image that left me so impressed that I asked the shopkeeper about it, and she told me it was Santa Muerte. By the time I was 17 or 18 years old, I had the opportunity to buy a magazine that contained information about Santa Muerte. I tried to learn everything I could about her, initially driven by my great curiosity to understand what it meant to believe in death. I also bought a small figure of her, thanks to an acquaintance who frequently traveled to the same market where I first saw her. Although I had the image at home, I never named it or made any offerings like sweets, candles, or liquor. At the beginning of 1999, my grandfather fell ill with pneumonia, and his health deteriorated to the point of being on the verge of death. I was unaware of this at the time, so my mother asked me to get rid of that small image I had. Obeying my mother, I took the figure of Santa Muerte and left it at the grave in a cemetery. I would ask her for my father's business, especially for my mother's life, and for payments to be made on time since his business often involved giving credit. I believe that in the end, death collected all the requests I made for abandoning her. After that period, I went through several financial problems at work. No matter how hard I worked, the money never seemed to be enough. I tried seeking help using esoteric recipes to improve abundance or through miraculous saints, but my problems only increased. I had to ask for help from Santa Muerte again. This time, I was able to purchase a larger figure of her in white, as well as a small one that I painted gold. At that time, I was around 22 or 23 years old and even took the task of personalizing her altar with flowers, sweets, liquor, water, and aromatic candles. I tended to it better than ever. Despite this, my father continued to have many financial problems. Every night, I would turn to Santa Muerte for help. I prayed for both my father and myself because money seemed to never be enough. This might have been the biggest mistake I ever made because there were no answers. Instead, the problems only grew. My father accumulated more debts, and family issues began to surface. On my father's recommendation, I sought out a woman who practiced white magic and had started helping my family. There was always something unsettling about her, which made me uneasy. One day, something quite unusual happened. After work, I decided to walk home, and as I was on my way, a brown car appeared out of nowhere. What caught my attention was a sticker on the driver's door, shaped like a snake with open jaws and large red fangs, as if it had bitten something and blood had stained it. This was strange, and I realized just how strange when I returned home. The house was spotless, as if it had been washed, and the woman helping my family was there. I greeted everyone, and she called me aside, explaining that she was there to prevent a tragic death, when I had likely dreamed of nights before. I remembered having a peculiar dream where a snake descended from a tree in my yard to bite me, leaving me bleeding on the ground. She asked if I remembered the color, and I replied it was light brown. Her next question chilled me. Did I remember the color of the car and what was on its door as I walked home? I was stunned. The car I had seen was a reflection of my dream. She told me that I had asked Santa Muerte, and today was supposed to be my day of payment, but she came to prevent my death. She spoke with me further, showing me the danger of keeping the image in my home, and kindly asked me to give her everything I had related to Santa Muerte. Altar. That same night, I gave her everything, images, candles, incense, etc. I was left with nothing belonging to her. My third and last case happened 4 months ago. After I stopped practicing the cult of Santa Muerte, several years passed, and I met a girl on Facebook. We became very good friends, constantly chatting. Somehow, love blossomed between us. She confessed to me that she was a strong believer in Santa Muerte, even showing me the altar with the offerings she made. During this time, I had a lovely friendship with an old friend, but suddenly, she stopped reaching out and talking to me. He really didn't know what was going on with her. He tried asking her what was happening, but she always avoided me. He ended up buying some candles and trying some recipes to see if the friendship could be restored, but nothing worked. My friendship with this person was broken, and I talked about it with my girlfriend. She listened to me and suggested I ask Santa Muerte for help. Honestly, I didn't want to, but I only had two options: wait for some recipe to work or directly ask Santa Muerte. In the end, I chose the second option. He asked her to give me the chance to reconnect with my friend and find out what had happened. For this request, I had to search online for a figure of her to ask for help in exchange for my eternal gratitude. That same night, I received a message from my friend, who was reaching out to me again. He was really happy because my request had been granted, so I had to fulfill my promise. The problem was that my parents didn't believe in Santa Muerte, and I hadn't realized that I had a problem. If it hadn't been for my friend, I wouldn't have been able to do this. He had to do something so my friend could give me the answer. He told her I didn't want her to do this to me. He wanted her to do something so my friend would do this. She told me that since she had granted my wish, I now had to keep the promise I made. He found a space in my closet to make a small altar for her. To make sure this place was to her liking, I used a method that involved filling a glass with water and leaving it with a white cloth in a spot where I thought it would be a good altar. He also had to ask her and wait all night to know how the water reacted. If the next day the water was cloudy, the answer was no, but if it was clear with some bubbles, the answer was yes. After finding out the answer, I traveled to the capital to look for a place that sold esoteric products. Specifically, I was searching for a woman who did something called the awakening. After some investigation, I found her shop, and she told me she performed this ritual. The awakening is like enabling the figures so they grant you what you ask for, as long as you take good care of them. The woman took some oil and anointed the figure, declaring that I would be its owner. She also gave me some esoteric water and incense to protect me and complete the activation. Once everything was done, I went to my friend's house. With this, Santa Muerte would protect me. This might have been another significant mistake on my part. Upon arriving home, I set up the altar following the instructions given by the woman who awakened the image. She added that if I didn't awaken it, none of my requests would be fulfilled. In theory, everything was ready. I could use it and finished setting up the corresponding altar. I placed a plate of water on the altar, along with 2 apples, one red and one yellow, coated with honey and cinnamon, as well as various sweets, a white candle, water, and a glass of red wine for her. This was how I paid my debt to her. The trouble began when my sister mysteriously started having health issues that same Saturday. She couldn't stop vomiting and ended up hospitalized. That night, I asked Santa Muerte for my sister's recovery. She told me that if it hadn't been addressed in time, something serious could have happened. One night, while I was lying down playing with my phone, my father spoke to me. "Son, I know you have different beliefs from us and that you have an altar, but if you love your family, please get rid of everything you have. It's likely the cause of your sister's sudden illness." Hearing this, I got quite angry with my father, so I decided to ignore him. But I think that was a mistake. The situation at home became increasingly tense, and I started to feel uneasy. My father's words lingered in my mind, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. That night, I had a vivid dream where Santa Muerte appeared to me, but instead of feeling comforted, I felt a deep sense of fear. He woke up in a cold sweat, convinced that I needed to make a change. The next morning, I gathered all the items related to Santa Muerte and decided to get rid of them. He felt a mix of fear and relief as I did so, hoping that this decision would bring peace back to my family. He knew it was time to turn away from the path I had chosen and seek a new beginning,